Hello, my fronds, my palm fronds. How are ya? Good to see you guys here. Let's see. It looks like I have a delay again. Why does this happen every time? Um, Leslie, can you let me know if I'm delayed as I'm talking? Hi guys, good to see you. Cindy, Gretchy, what's up? Jacqueline, Sonia, hi guys. Are you guys seeing me in delay? Is it delay-y or is it fine? Because I'm all delayed when I look at myself over there. Yes, I have a delay. Bummer. Oh, that seems a little better. I don't know what to do to fix it. Yes, but fine. All right. Well, we'll do our best here and maybe it'll catch up. Or maybe you guys will just have a surreal experience this entire time of watching the mouth not match the words. I don't know. I just don't know. All right. So, what are we talking about today? Let's look back at our little topic here. We're going to talk about the difference between the darkness that likes to snuff out the light and the darkness that is powerful, healthy, and correct. And we're going to talk about power that is dominant over others, that big scary P word, when we're powerful in a scary way versus power that is the who you are of who you are and how to know the difference. The first thing that comes to me as I start to look at, I'm just reading the topic. So as I read it again and look at it for you guys, hi guys, hi Cindy, hi Jamie, good to see you. Is one of the things about the power that is who we are versus the power that dominates over other people is it has a lot to do with being in the correct time and place, which is to say, if you're in the right, let's put this very simply. Teal Swan says this great thing. She's like, people buy things in this world based on their needs. People hire coaches and healers and whatever, soap salesmen and like bathroom builders and house roofers, and they buy things and they hire people to help them who have what they need. So the question she always talks about asking yourself is, well, who needs what I am? Who needs what I have? And I like to add in the idea that you are allowed to serve the needs of people for a time in a way. And then if you change and grow, or if you're aware in this present moment that you're not always going to be the thing that you are now. So sometimes a lot of people will not start doing something because they're like, well, eventually I'm not going to be this anymore and I'm going to change. And then I should be building that thing now for the future me. Sometimes, but sometimes it's okay to just be meeting the needs of the people whose needs you can meet now in the body and the mind and the spirit you're in now, right? So when we look at how do we know if we're functioning from a power that is healthy and contributory versus a power that is coming from trauma or coming from injury and therefore causing more harm? Well, one of the answers is we have to be, it helps to be in the right place where the people in that place want what you are, where their needs match what you have. So for a lot of time in my case, for example, I asked myself, okay, what do I organically do well? What do I have fun at? What do I want to do? Well, that was performing and acting and theater and all of that for the majority of my life. And then one has to make money in between acting jobs. Like that's just how it is at the beginning of that. And for sometimes people's entire careers are that way. And so I was left with the question of like, how is my time best spent between acting jobs and between auditions? How am I going to make money? Oh, good. The lag is gone. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate that. And what I was gratefully willing to sit into was I had a need to make a good amount of money quickly in a way that did not drain me energetically. So because I knew that theater was so energetically draining and it takes a lot out of you, I thought, okay, I need something that's going to make a lot of money in a short amount of time, but that doesn't drain me. And I learned that in part because in my 20s, I did a lot of jobs that they tell actors to do, wait tables, I worked as a salesperson for some tech company for a while. God, I was terrible at that. I was also an awful waiter. I'm just the worst wait person. babysitting, all kinds of different stuff. I hated all of it and I resented being there. Anytime I was there, I resented it because the whole time I was there, I felt like these are minutes in my life. I'm not doing the things I'm meant to be doing. And I resented the hell out of it. And I used the anger I felt at being trapped in a place where I'm just waiting for this to be over so I could go do stuff that matters to me. I use that energy to say, like, well, how would I be okay spending my time between acting jobs? And for a long time, I struggled because I didn't realize that the world wanted my potency. Because socially, I had had a lot of experience of men being intimidated by my power and my voice and my potency, and other women competing with the power of the potency, getting small around me, getting big around me, liking it, not liking it. And I was such a, I'm an ACA, adult child of an alcoholic, that like I was very trained to always be reading the room and always be becoming who they want you to be, whoever they is in the moment. So deconditioning from all that was quite a process. But what I finally realized was that which is going to make me feel good, like that which would make me a lot of money in the shortest amount of time and not drain me, was when I was living into my power. In other words, everything I tried to do that was like, I'll just do this side thing and it won't be my real thing. I won't be fully expressing myself or being who I really am while I do it, but I'll just like do it for a few hours, no big deal. That would drain me. And I came to understand with a lot of help, that was because I was not living into my power. When we're living our power, when we're being our power and our potency and our strength, as it is correct for each of us as individuals, because we're all different, right? I had energy after. So I discovered that if I taught an acting class, I had to be really on for an acting class. And that was very energizing for me. So that after teaching an acting class, I had more energy for my audition. And then as I grew and developed, I discovered like, oh, I'm pretty good at doing this energy healing work. And as I do energy healings, it makes me feel peaceful and centered and serene. So I have more energy for my acting auditions and so on and so forth. So the more I leaned into where I was most powerful, the more energy I got. Another example is I always thought it would be cool to teach like at a really cool university or some kind of educational institution. So I wound up through a friend getting to teach at Stanford, and I still teach to this day for the continuing studies department at Stanford. I teach acting, stand-up comedy writing, and improv for business people. And so it's a lot of me standing in my power and teaching corporate executive types how to be creative and how to have their own voice and how to step into their power in a whole different way than what they're used to doing. So what does this have to do with the topic? The point is, what is the difference between the power that we just are, that is who we are, and the power where it's like you're using your power against people in a way that is domineering? Most people like yourselves who come to hear a lady like me say words are empaths, spiritualists, creatives, sensitives, people who always think that when they're in their power, it's wrong. Anytime you're being powerful and having your own voice and being empowered and awake and telling the truth, you must be too much and it must be too wrong and you can't do it and it's probably terrible. Why? Because there's always somebody in that room who's triggered by you being in your power. And you're so sensitive and perceptive and empathic and psychic that you feel somebody being triggered, and God forbid you trigger someone. So you go and make yourself nice and small so that they don't get offended and they don't feel uncomfortable. Meanwhile, all the life force is draining out of your body. The entire purpose of you being here, by the way, is to lean into your life force and use it to be who you are, and therefore, in so doing, serve the people. We were talking about this today. God, where was this? In a session with some friends, actually. We were talking about the paradox of, okay, let me see if I could articulate this. In human design, there are your gates and your channels fall into any one of three categories of types of circuitry. There's individual circuitry, collective circuitry, and tribal circuitry. Now, if you have a lot of individual circuitry, you're going to be somebody who's very like me and my self-expression, and I do what I want. I'm oversimplifying it, but stay with me to just as I make the point. If you have a lot of collective circuitry, you're going to be somebody who's like everyone, everyone, everywhere. How does what I'm choosing now affect and help and contribute to everyone, everywhere? And if you're someone who's more tribal, you're going to be somebody who's like, how does what I choose today affect my family, my friends, my neighbors, tribe, the people close to me, my little community. So, if you look at, like, you could easily go to judgment about these three groups, right? And you could say that the individualist people are so self-centered. They should be worried about the collective, right? And you could say that the tribal people are thinking too small. They should be looking at the collective. Or if you have a different perspective, you could say, the collective people are thinking too big. What about your kids and your family? And the individual people, well, they're just being weird. Why don't they just do what works for everybody else? So you could judge it from any of the if you take a tribal perspective and judge the individual perspective, that's what you get. If you take an individual perspective and judge the collective, you get judgment. Okay. But if you look at, here's the way out of that judgment. The whole point of understanding your human design is to understand how to be empowered and how to let others be who they are. Empower them to be empowered in their own way. What I mean by that is, if you look at an individual person or a person with a lot of individual circuitry, that's going to be somebody very into their own process, their own life, what they're up to in this life, and that's all they're focused on. They're like, I want to do this, and I need to do these three things to make that happen. Here I go. And my whole day is on making what I want to have happen. Whereas somebody who's more tribal is like, what do my kids need? What does my family need? How much money do we need to make? What's required so I can make that money to protect my kids and give it to my family? Very different orientation to reality. However, and if you look at the collectivists, you're going to have people thinking like, what choices can I make that contribute to the most number of people in the most parts of the world? Okay. So you could argue it's very selfish to be individual. It'd be like me, and what do I want to do? And what's my self-expression? However, if you look at what an individual circuitry having person is doing in their life on the regular, you'll often find that by being self-centered, if like I'm very individual, I got a lot of individual circuitry. I like talking to you guys. I come here because I like it. I also happen to know it contributes to you, and hopefully it's useful to people. But I do this because I like doing it, and I feel alive and in my own power and in my own voice and in my own truth when I do this. Okay. But notice I'm being self-centered and it's serving you. Same thing when I make a solo show. I'm making it because I have something to say because I want to say it. If I say it, people who come to it, they laugh, they cry, they have a feeling, they connect with their partner more that night because they laughed and cried and had a feeling. Now I've contributed to you by telling you how I feel because I felt like it. Now, obviously, there's more to this and there's nuance here because I have to think about how I create a solo show, and it has to be thought of in the sense of like, how's this going to land for other people? And I can't be totally self-involved and just be a narcissist doing a therapy session on stage and call that a solo show. That shit doesn't work. But you get the point I'm making, that which seems self-centered, when it is done for others or in front of others, is contributing to the tribe and to the collective. So translation, speaking of power, okay, when you are in your power, excuse my burps, and your full self-expression, other people benefit. Now, my form of that happens to be in the form of teaching and in performing, which are sort of obvious ways of, it's like obvious that people benefit from me being in my self-centered interests of my own. But think about your own reality, right? Maybe yours isn't so obvious. But you want to think about it. Like I had a sponsor once in the 12-step programs who used to say, in 12-step, they talk about the sort of like the baseline framework of what the 12 steps are, or what being in recovery is clean house, trust God, and help others. And for a long time, I couldn't understand how I was supposed to help others because I was all fucked up. And I was like, God, how do you help anyone when you're all fucked up? And my sponsor used to say, just going to a meeting is helping others. Meetings are where, if you don't know, sober people or people in 12-step programs like get together and talk about their shit. So you could say, isn't that just masturbatory? Isn't that just a bunch of people sitting around like complaining about their problems? How is that useful? Well, What I came to understand was if I show up to a meeting and I'm having a particularly hard day and I share in that meeting, here's how I'm having a hard day, and here's what I did to get through it. Chances are good somebody else in that meeting needed to hear exactly what I said because they were having a similar kind of hard day and didn't have any idea how to get through it. Or another way it would happen is I would come in, I'd be having a hard day, I'd share about having a hard day, and somebody would come up to me after the meeting and be like, God, I felt so much less alone after you shared what a hard day you were having because I was suffering over in my house by myself thinking I'm the only person having a hard day like this. I'm such a fuck up. But then when you shared about it in the meeting, it made me feel like, oh my God, I'm not alone. So again, the point being when you function from self-care, I need to do this for me, something that you need to do for you to feel good for yourself. 9 times out of 10, other people are benefiting, and that is you being in your power. And that's okay. So back to the power idea. That's an example of walking into life. It doesn't seem like I'm sharing anything useful, but just by telling my truth, being in my voice, being in my power, the people around me are benefiting. So you can think about that in your own life. Where in my life can I stand fully in the energy of me in a way and in a space and in a place and in a location that the people in that location need that? People choose what they want based on what they need. So who needs what you are? That's a great question to ask when you want to learn, how do I stand in my power? And what is the difference between healthy empowerment and power over people? Power over people is when you use your charisma or your intelligence or your wisdom or your anything to manipulate other people to do what you want and to take them out of doing what is right for them. So if I use my ability to storytell to manipulate you to do a thing I want you to do, but that really isn't in your highest good, that's me using power over you and manipulating you or controlling you or dominating you in a way that personally, I'm not all about that. Okay. I don't support that kind of shit. I don't like it. Um, and but you could even argue that somebody using power over, the people choosing to allow that are choosing to allow that. But you could also say they're so unconscious that they're not consciously choosing to be dominated. They don't know what's happening, and therefore it's even more fucked up because the person in power, by virtue of the fact that they have manipulated these people not in power, they do know what they're doing, and they're choosing to control people who don't know they're being controlled. So it's fucked up and not great, and I don't support it. And that would be the difference between the two kinds of power. Okay. Now I'm debating if I keep talking about the darkness or if I see if you guys have. Does anybody have any questions about this power conversation? When is it healthy power? When is it power with? And when is it power over? Let's throw those questions in the chat if anybody has any. Feel free to be selfish because remember, as you're selfish and you tell the truth and you get your needs met, it benefits other people. And if you don't, we can totally wait and I can talk some more and we can come back to it. But does anybody have a question about any of this so far? Or something you'd like to contribute? Okay, I don't think you're responding, so I'm going to keep going. All right, so the other piece of this conversation for today's topic is the darkness. Okay, because so often sensitive people, psychic people, spiritual people, creative people associate power with darkness. Okay. Which is an understandable association to make because there are two kinds of power and two kinds of darkness. There's probably more than just two kinds of darkness, but for now, we're going to talk about these two. So the first kind of darkness, let's talk about the more obvious kind. The first kind of darkness is, I like to call it the shaitan because I was trained in a Sufi healing school. That was my first training in this particular lifetime. And it resonates with me. I've watched the way that this particular kind of darkness likes to choke the life out of people, and it likes to snuff out the light. In fact, its whole job is to convince people there is no light, there is no God, there is no hope, There is no love. There is no joy. You're fucked. So just do what I say, I being the darkness. And that's the best chance you have of having any power. Okay. When we feel disempowered, this shaitanic energy has extra sway in our consciousness. It's very easy to manipulate someone who feels disempowered if you give them some energy. And the shaitan has energy. It happens to be a dark energy, and it happens to be an energy that leads to shitty stuff happening for you and anyone else who's affected by the choices you're making using that power. But it is energy. So when you're super depressed and the shaitan comes in and is like, get mad at that person, you're like, cool, at least I have energy and I'm taken out of my depression. And that's where we can get addicted to anger and control and power, is when we have these shaitanic influences from the darkness that is literally an energy trying to snuff out the light. Okay, that's one kind of darkness. Another kind of darkness is, we would call it like the darkness of the density of the Kali energy. So if you think of goddess Kali, I always think of her and associate her with this kind of darkness. Goddess Kali, the black womb of no thing. Consciousness itself is known as a dark space from which all other things emerge. Space itself, if you think of space outside of the earth, right? In the galaxy and the universe, space, it's dark. There's dark matter in space. Darkness how do I say? Consciousness, the seat of energy from which all other energies come, is blackness. It's pure dark blackness. It's the void and the filled in circle, paradoxically at the same time, of all the potentiality of everything. So if you think of like the moment before the Big Bang, there was just darkness in a dense ball, and then it exploded out into everything. So the moment before the explosion and the energy before the explosion was this black mass that I like to call the black womb of no thing. It's no thing, but it's everything. It's all potentiality in one black, dense space, place, time. That is a kind of darkness. It's not a very bright, shiny unicorns and fancy pants flower people dancing around on a cloud with a man with a long white beard sitting next to it. It's not like that. The seat of creativity is a black hole. Okay? Think about sex and babies, where life comes to earth through the densest, blackest hole in a lady's body parts. Creation happens with like light, power, potency penetrating a void, a black hole. Okay, that's the seat of creation. And so that kind of darkness is not a darkness that is trying to snuff out the light. It's the darkness that is the seat of creating all of the light. Okay, and now I need to beg you guys' forgiveness. I need you to wait 20 seconds while I let Squeezle the dog back into the house. Please hold. Yes, you're back. We see you. We can proceed. When the queen beckons, you have to answer. Ugh, there she is. You're like a lightning bolt of dog. You're like a dog bolt, a lightning dog. Anywho, so the part of why spiritual people, sensitive people, creative people get confused about power and darkness is because in order to live from your own true personal power, you have to drop into your fucking womb, which is the blackness of the vast potentiality of all creativity. To have your own power, you have to get into the lower self. You have to get into the second chakra, down in here, down in, right? It's not all hearts and fairies and love and sweetness. It's like, creativity. Forgive my crassness, but you don't fuck somebody with your heart chakra. Although your heart chakras do merge when you have sex with people. But you're fucking them with your pee hole. You're fucking them from downtown in the black womb of no thing. And it's correct for you to do that. There's nothing wrong or shameful about it. It's what is. So in order to be in your power, you kind of have to lean into the darkness of the field of creativity, the field of potentiality in your lower self. That's how you be empowered. You speak from that low part of yourself, which is very different from what we're all trying to do socially, which is be nice, get everybody to like us, and have nobody judge us and have nobody be mad at us. Well, there is no fucking potency in that. There's no truth in it, and there's no power in it. So coming back to the first thing I was saying when I said part of understanding the difference between the two kinds of power, you being fully empowered versus you having power over. And I said, if you recall, you've got to be in the right place at the right time in order for your power to have a place to go. That's why the jobs we choose, excuse me, and the people we date and the friends we have are very important, because if the space of your friendships and the space of your job and the space of your romantic relationships is not a space where you get to feel empowered, where you get to feel like the full expression of you, well, then where do you get to feel that or have that? Nowhere. So you have to be smart enough and attuned enough and awake enough to choose to put your body in places and spaces that want you, that need you, that like you as you are. The people, the places and spaces that actually want you in your full power expression. So back to my original story here. If you recall, I started by telling the story about how when I was starting my career as an actor, I needed side jobs. I needed to make money between acting jobs and between auditions. And I couldn't understand why I hated all these side jobs so much. And it wasn't until I realized it's because I'm choosing jobs that don't want my power. When you're a waiter, you're not supposed to walk up to the table and be like, hey, so I noticed that you seem to be in a lot of pain and you're kind of a dick, huh? And your narcissism is out of control. Well, I can help you all with that. And also, here's some funny jokes. Nope, that's not what they want at the restaurant. At the restaurant, they want you to put the fucking fork down, drop the food, and get the fuck out of here. That's what they want at a restaurant. I am not a polite lady. I don't care where the fucking fork goes. It's a fork. It should be near your hand so you can eat food with it, is my perspective. So I am the wrong lady to wait tables at a fancy restaurant. Now, let's be real. When I go to fancy restaurants, I love a server who's real good at serving. I love that about them. Yes, please put the fork to my right. Why not? That's lovely. Yes, tell me all about the specials. I just don't want to have to do that shit, because there's no potency for me in that. There's no me being me in that. I'm not built for that. Somebody else is. And that's another point that we have to think about when we look at, are we living into our power or not? A lot of people think, I have to stay here because I'm good at it, or I have to stay here because these kids need my help, or I have to stay here because. You want to actually think about it like, if you hate where you are, or if you don't like where you are, or if you're not getting your needs met in your job or in your relationships, somebody else is built for that. There are plenty of people built to do a great job waiting tables. Leslie, my amazing assistant here, she's an amazing behind the scenes, do all the admin things I am a miserable failure at. Very basic shit in life I'm terrible at. I happen to be good at other weird shit. Fine. So all those years we spend judging ourselves, I should be better at the admin stuff so that I can have my business work. It's like, what if not? If that's not where you're lit up, if that's not where your potency comes alive, then hire somebody else to do that shit so you can shine and do you. And then the question becomes, well, how do you pay them? Well, you have to do something that's empowered enough, that you like doing it enough, that you charge enough for it, that you can afford to hire someone. So stepping into our power is like hugely, vastly important in this life. Otherwise, nothing can happen. If we're constantly hiding from, shrinking away from our power, you're never going to really step into the full expression of your life, and you're certainly not going to get to experience your role and your purpose in this lifetime. Okay, so those are the distinctions between the types of power and the distinctions between the types of darkness. Now, questions. Please tell me what they are. I'm here to answer them. I'm here to respond. And or thoughts, feelings you'd like to share. Now is your moment. I am a little, as you can hear, a little congested. I have a teeniest, tiniest sore throat. So if nobody has questions, I'm going to stop this one early. But if you guys do, I would be happy to answer them, because it's responding to your questions gives me life so much that I don't even notice I have nose things and throat things. All right. Who's got a question? Throw it in the chat, or an insight, or an awareness, or a feeling, or a poem. I mean, Squeezel's here too. You could ask her stuff. She knows a lot of stuff about lizards, bugs, grass, running, bossing me around, eating her food, not eating her food, having a chubby neck. She's got a lot of chub neck. Rahima says, I have no questions at the moment, but I'm really appreciating your words. Oh, I'm so glad. That's awesome. Thank you, my love. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. I love you. It's good to see you. I hope we get you in class soon. That reminds me, while we're sitting here, if you haven't already joined my OMA class, my OMA Pittsburgh class begins October 26th. That is my most affordable energy healing class. So it's a 5-week class. You get a human design reading privately built in with the 5-week class. We start, it's Wednesdays. I think it's 7 or 7:30. I can't remember. For 5 weeks online, Wednesdays, October 26th. Hop on in there. It's so affordable. It's embarrassing, because my classes are much more expensive than that class, but it's not embarrassing. I'm just being facetious. It's built affordably so that we can pack more people into one class, and so that more people can come. Like, it's sometimes you can't afford an energy healing class. So we put more bodies in this one. All right, cool. I get that you guys have no questions. You're the best. Thank you for joining me here today. This has been a delicious topic to discuss. I hope you will all, here we go. Somebody's got one. I was about to go. On jealousy, knowing the difference between someone in their power triggering you because you aren't. This is good. No, this is good. I'm not going anywhere. Now that we have a question, I'm stoked. I'm hanging around. Versus someone utilizing manipulation, especially coming from that root. It can be angering to see someone so free in their power. How to walk that line. This is hard to articulate. Yeah, I totally know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just sitting with it to think about how to respond. Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is you're struggling with knowing when you're triggered because someone's in their power and you aren't in your power. So you're threatened by them being in their power because you think it means you can't be in yours. Versus when is somebody actually manipulating you and being shitty at you? This is a thing I've learned for myself through using the tool of the 4th step in the 12-step recovery program. Meaning, here's how I would work with this. I would first ask myself, what self-centered fears do I have that are being brought up by this person being in their power? And I would write them down. I would go, I have fear that I can't have my power because they have theirs. I have fear that if I'm as powerful as them, they'll be mad at me. I have fear that if I'm that powerful, I'll explode. I have fear, I mean, it could be anything. I fear that men won't find me attractive if I'm powerful. Whatever it might be. Women won't find me attractive if I'm, whatever. Once you understand what the fear is under the trigger, like if you feel triggered or activated by somebody in their power, you want to sit into the vulnerability underneath the defense. So the defense goes like, fuck you, lady. But or maybe your defenses do something different. Defenses can take all kinds of shapes. But under a defense is always a vulnerability, a fear, usually a fear or a sadness. So when you can name and feel into the fear and the sadness, oh, I'm afraid that I don't get to have my voice because they're having theirs. You can understand cognitively that that is not true. That is a fear you have, but it's not true. Then that gives you the choice. You gain choice, and you can say to yourself, well, I'm going to be empowered and they can be empowered and we can both have our voice. I'm not going to live, in other words, from my fear. I'm not going to make choices from the fear voice that says, I don't get to have my power because they're having their power. I'm going to have my power. And then we'll see where the chips fall. So some of it is awareness and some of it is choice. You have to choose to be in your own power, even if you're triggered into feeling like you don't get to be. Now, when somebody's, if you check yourself first and go, where am I being, where do I have self-centered fear, or where are any of my character defects activated? Pride, envy, greed, lust, sloth, Pythagoras, pride, fear, anger, greed, lust, envy, sloth. If none of those are activated, well, first you work with which ones are activated. That's your stuff to work with. Okay, great. Once you get through that, you could go, am I still triggered? And 9 times out of 10, you won't be. But if you still are, chances are good that person is an asshole. In other words, if I see a lady being in her power and I'm like all triggered and shit, and if I'm honest with myself, I might say like, well, I'm really just envious because I want to be the lady up there talking. So now I'm mad at her because I'm actually mad at me because I'm not living into my own power and I'm frustrated by that. So if I could get honest about that, then I can choose to soften my heart in my relationship with her and just talk to her from the heart because she's not actually a threat. Once I understand that who I'm actually mad at is myself. Now, if you go through all of the self-analysis and look at yourself for a while and get through all of your part in it, and there's nothing left and you're still mad, then chances are good that person is being manipulative. But at the stage of the game where you're sitting, I would encourage you to look at, where's my pride, fear, anger, greed, lust, envy, sloth activated? And how can I counter that? The first step to countering that is get connected to spirit and let the light of spirit dissolve the pride, fear, anger, greed, lust, envy, sloth. And then get into your own power once that's dissolved and get busy taking action, building the thing you feel threatened that they have. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Do you have any follow-up questions? Because that's a very good question. Thank you for it, Gretchen. Please feel free to add more or let me know if that answered it. Rahima says, I guess I could say that the more I dissolve my defenses into the one, the deeper sense of power I feel. And also embracing when my being says no is feeling deeply empowering. Yeah, strengthening my sense of 3-dimensional definition. I matter as a human being. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the blend we're going for. So I like what you said here. The more I dissolve my defenses into the one, she's talking about the oneness, the love, the light, God, whatever, the deeper sense of power I feel. I'd love to have you say more about that. How does dissolving your defenses into the love or the light make you feel more powerful? Because most people would think, well, if I let go of my defenses, I lose all my power. I know what you mean, but I'd love to hear your words around it. I'll speak to it for myself first and say that what happens for me when I dissolve my defenses into the one is I feel back to peace and I feel quiet. I feel peaceful and centered and I'm not activated or triggered anymore. And then when I'm peaceful and centered, it's easy to make choices that I can respect. If I'm acting from a trigger and I'm not centered, I usually don't respect my own choices. Like I had a client recently where I was just reacting to them. And then afterwards I was like, that was gross. What was that? And it was like, oh, my defenses were activated. I wasn't in my open heart space. And then when I was able to shift into the open heart space and be, and just receive their defenses without defending back, then all of a sudden I was making peaceful, loving, intelligent, boundaried, listening to my own being saying no or yes choices, but from a loving place that wasn't defended. Let me know if that makes sense. And I'd love to hear any words you have on it, Rahima. Jamie says, what about people that you see who are so troubled by the darkness? This really pulls at your heartstrings because you see someone in pain, but you're not sure if you can help them or you should leave them be. Yeah, yeah. People that you see who are so troubled by the darkness. This really pulls your head. See someone in pain, but you're not sure if you can help them or if you should leave them be. Yeah. I'm not sure what your question is exactly. What about people that you see? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is like, yeah, boundaries. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you gotta be aware when somebody's in a lot of pain. If their pain is gonna pull you into their darkness, then it's not worth trying to help them because that's like throwing a life preserver to a drowning man, but you're the life preserver. Yeah, he's just gonna pull on you and pull you down. So you learn discernment over time by listening to your own boundaries. Does your body in the moment say, I have it in me. I have the energy truly to help this person? Or am I just having my heartstrings tugged at and I think I should help, but I don't actually have the energy for it. And also, I don't know if I have the tools to help that person. And also, I don't know how you save a drowning man when you don't have a life preserver. Kind of have to be willing to be humble enough to ask yourself, do I have energy for this right now? Do I have the tools? Does that help, Jamie? Let me know. Remy says, I mean that as I dissolve my defenses. Um, I like how you're spelling defenses. It's very cute. More truth, creative force, love, and actual power or potency actually moves through me. The less walls within me, the bigger I get, the bigger awe moves. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. You said it way better than I was saying it. So that's perfect. Are they asking for help? Nicole says. I think she's referring to the Jamie Vega thing, where Jamie says, you see someone in pain. Nicole brings up a great point. If they're asking you for help, well, then ask yourself, do I have the energy? Do I have the tools? If they're not asking for help, it's kind of none of your business. Like, who made you God of the world? No offense, but like that is what we get into when we get into like trying to save, fix, or change people. Yes, that's how you spell it, Rahima. You're the best. I like your version because it has the word fences in it. She was spelling it with a C. Defenses, like the fences inside of us that protect our hearts. I like your spelling, but that is how the English dictionary people spell it for whatever the fuck that's worth. Yeah, thank you for that addition, Nicole. Great question. That would be what I would put to you, Jamie. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, defenses. Exactly. All right. Does anyone else have something they'd like to ask or add? All right. Well, it's been a treat to be with you guys. Oh, here we go, Jamie. Absolutely. It's more of like when you feel like you're being pulled into their drama. Yeah. Well, that's where you have to have the boundaries and you have to choose. You can feel pulled into drama and still not get pulled into drama. That's a choice, but it's hard sometimes. You have to remember too, 9 times out of 10 when you feel like you're getting pulled into someone's drama, they want you in there. They're pulling you. So you want to be aware of that and then ask yourself, do I want to be manipulated? Or do I want to choose what I actually want? If I don't want to be in this drama, just because they're pulling me doesn't mean I have to go. In fact, if you're anything like me, the moment people try to pull me in their drama, I'm like, nah. Because if you're trying to pull me into anything, I'm not about it because I want to choose. I'm a very stubborn, choosy lady. Okay, I hope that's helpful. I keep seeking approval, being codependent, and having safe people. I have the sense to go out and get ready to create, but I keep going back. I don't know what you mean by having safe people. Maybe you could help me understand that. I keep seeking approval, being codependent. I have the sense to go out and get ready to create, but I keep going back. So I think what you're saying is you keep going back because of your codependency. In other words, you start to create, but then you get worried that people won't like it or people will judge you or whatever, and then you go back. I think that's what you're saying. Is that what you're saying, Jennifer B? Because if that's what you're saying, I totally hear you. And really, what we have to practice is going forward anyway. You could feel like you're getting pulled back and still step forward. You could feel like you don't have it in you and still take action. That's also a good time to get some energy healing work done. Like come to the OMA class or book a private session because you may have some energetics that are, this sounds like stuff that needs to be processed in your system and healed so that you have an easier time just stepping forward into your power. Let me know if you have. It is effing scary. It is, because you face the judgments of everybody in your life. But the cool thing about facing judgment is once you do it, you realize like, well, that wasn't so bad. In fact, it was pretty great. Like it happens for me every time I do stand-up comedy. Like I'll write a whole lot of jokes that are like a lot of material and spend a lot of hours on it, get ready for weeks and weeks. And I'm so nervous to get up there because when you do stand-up comedy, it's all point of view. Like it's all you taking your own point of view with a strong attitude. And so if people don't like it, they really don't like it. And it's only you up there. So what do you do with that? You have to be willing to be judged. You have to be willing to step into the space where maybe nobody will like it. And you have to find out how it goes. It is a risk. So family attachment. Yes, Jennifer B. Yes. Yeah. Worried about what the family's going to think, worried about what their judgments are. Yeah. So you just got to lean into the wind, my friend, and take a couple risks. Take small, measured baby step risks when you're able. You don't have to do the whole thing all at once, but take a couple steps. And then when they come at you or judge you, you just go like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, how's the weather? It's a great way to have boundaries with people is you just acknowledge, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And anyway, then you change the subject. How are you? How's your life? What are you doing? Make it about them. Because by the way, anybody who's holding you back like that is probably pretty self-involved. So if you just start talking about them, they're going to love that and they'll leave you alone. Does that make sense? All right. Any other questions about any of this? Hello, Tana. Good to see you. All right, I'm going to wrap up a little early today, you guys. I'm not feeling perfectly well. I'm all kinds of congested, as you can see, and my throat is not right. You guys are the best. Thank you for being here. I love you guys so much. Come join the OMA class. It's I'm going to write this in the thingy here, omapittsburgh.org. And then when you go to their website, look for the class called Highest Level Healing and Human Design. And that is the class I'm teaching starting October 26th. I love you guys. Have a great one. Bye.